Hello, happy St. Patrick's Day as we welcome you to episode 7 of the Tune Up here on Monday, March 17th, 2025. I'm joined by Derek Smith. My name is Zach Tefelsky. Zachary MT is my YouTube, and we'll be expecting Marcus Vanderlee hopefully joining us shortly. For now, we've got a unique situation here. Just me and Derek will be talking to start this show, and we'd like to welcome you guys in. Hard to believe we've already made it to episode 7. And we are 5 races into the NASCAR season, one race now into Formula One, just like we've been one race into IndyCar. It keeps getting going more and more. And we've got a great show for you on tap today, guys. We're going to be covering stuff such as Las Vegas, of course, intricate topics including pit road mishaps, stage winners, trends following that, like how many of them there's been. Just one repeat. Josh Berry and the Wood Brothers, are they back? And that's going to be something we're certainly excited to talk about. Josh Berry's big first career cup win. We're also going to touch on, of course, rating the race, Las Vegas style, as well as we got a fun segment today, one that I'm personally looking forward to. Derek came up with this. We're going to do early season hot and cold drivers. We're going to give our thoughts on who's hot and who's not, underperformers and overperformers, who's looking good 5 races in. Then, of course, I alluded to it, F1, they're now in their season, and they had one heck of a kickoff to it in quite the crazy fashion. They're in Melbourne, Australia. They had a weather-affected race, and that weather certainly made for quite the unpredictable race as well. We certainly got treated to quite the race and quite the finish. We'll be talking
Yeah.
about that, as well as, of course, usual topics. Ending the show, we'll check fantasy standings. We've got a very active fantasy league. That's what I love about the Tune Up Hero. You guys showed up for that, and we've got 10 plus members there that have all been competing now 5 races in. We'll see who's continuing to lead the way. And then we'll preview Homestead, make some race picks, and then before we know it, the show will be over. Like we said, we'll be expecting Marcus to join us hopefully soon. And, well, Derek, glad you can join me, though, for the beginning of this show. I always appreciate you showing up.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, too bad one can't and then the other's gonna be late, but yeah, we make do.
Absolutely. And, I mean, I guess how about we get right into it? Las Vegas, a very, in my opinion, compelling Vegas race. I mean, Vegas has delivered ever since Next Gen started going there, but this race just felt like it. I mean, it's the bar for Vegas has been high. This race felt like it checked all the boxes. Not that Vegas hasn't been doing that, like I said with Next Gen, but this was just a compelling race. First of true mile and a half, that's not a super speedway package of the year, and this one surely delivered. You had quite literally everything you'd want, I think, as a NASCAR fan. Unless your driver did not have the finish you wanted, I feel like you have to look at yourself and say that was a very good race. That's what NASCAR's all about. We had a green flag run to the finish, a battle for the win. So much battles all throughout the race, comers and goers. No driver was dominating this one, and in the end, we had
Yeah.
probably an underdog winner. And
Oh yeah,
yeah,
it was. Was definitely an underdog winner. I think forget who led the most laps. I think it was only like 40 or 50
well, that's
total
tough. I mean,
laps.
I think it's a good thing when you forget who leads the most laps. It's clear that there wasn't a
Yeah.
dominant car.
I mean, I like a good dominant race, when one driver
Yeah.
dominates and shows their class, but I also love the ones that show that everyone can be dominant.
Yeah, I mean, we had Austin Cindric, I think, comes to mind. He actually led a lot of laps, starting there in a good position, and just a bunch of different drivers as well. But we're going to talk about Josh Berry here soon enough, and but it was just nice to be able to take in a great Las Vegas race. And one thing, this next gen, as controversial as it has been in some areas, short track racing has been a continual work in progress, as have other areas like super speed racing even as well. But the mile and a halves, they have always been on point with this next gen. It's like they were just perfectly made for each other. And we've got yet another good Vegas race. Homestead is next as well. Reason to be excited for that after last year. We're going to get into that a bit later in the show. But
Yeah,
yeah,
and I mean, just no, there hasn't been a race that's really missed this season. I mean,
yeah.
if one didn't really, if one really missed, it might have been Coda, but I mean, I think all
Oh,
five are pretty good.
no, I mean, I think a lot of people agree. We're 5 for 5 on good races this year. At least
Yeah,
these races have not been just bad. I mean, every race I think has been one way or another good in some way. It's not been just snoozers. Phoenix might have been the one where people hadn't been looking forward to, and because of how it's been running with Next Gen previously. But the option tires made it excited, and as well of
oh
a
yeah,
as an exciting finish. So I definitely agree. 5 for 5
Yeah,
on good races this year. I'd be very surprised if that doesn't continue next week at Homestead. That's a good point, Derek.
I feel like I will going into next week, but we'll get to the preview later on in the show.
Yeah, so that's our opening thoughts on Vegas, and I mean, getting into one of the kind of interesting things that we witnessed watching Las Vegas, the pit road mishaps. There was quite a lot of them. I don't know if the pit crew members were up late, gambling in Vegas and whatnot, but there was a lot of wheels that weren't tightened fully, and we saw a lot of loose wheels as a result. Many drivers getting their days ruined because of it, as well as Kyle Busch, Chase Briscoe, all spinning because of tires coming off, and that's not what you want. We know how NASCAR treats those loose tires as well, so probably some
Yeah.
suspensions coming.
And I know Christopher Bell might have had a loose tire, and the crew chief made a 200 IQ strat to put him in a teammate's pit box. It's a penalty for sure, but
That was
it was a pretty nice decision. I've never seen that before.
absolutely that was quite cool to see. That was, I mean, that was perfect. Yeah, I mean, you couldn't say it enough because you take the penalty, but it's absolutely avoiding something much worse, and we'll see if
Like
that's
a
something that drivers do more often.
yeah, like a crew chief suspension or something whenever they leave pit road like that.
Yeah, you don't want to get that avoids suspension. That's the main thing. Yeah, you'll get
Yeah,
a penalty for pitting in the wrong box, but it's way better than the alternatives of losing the wheel.
yeah. But that crew chief definitely deserved a pat on the back for that.
Yeah,
I was
and
hearing him on the
that was
radio.
heads up, and that's why Christopher Bell had won 3 in a row. Oh, look who's joined us! It's Marcus Vanderlee. Good to see you,
Hey.
Marcus.
Hey, sorry, I was running a little late there. Yeah, if you want to know where I was, I'll be open with the chat here. I it's kind of running a little bit of an iRacing league that the Tune Up will be
Oh,
sponsoring later on this year.
Hmm?
yeah, I saw the logo for that in our chat.
Now you might have
Yep.
to share some more info of that in the future, but welcome, Marcus. Me and Derek were just opening up, talking about initial Vegas thoughts. I'd like to give you a chance to just kind of tell you what was on your mind after the conclusion of Vegas yesterday, just on a surface level.
Well, as a Kyle Busch fan, everything's great. Looking forward to getting back to next week and hoping he can get back in the car.
Did you say that at Bowman Gray or Daytona when he had a bad race? You said the exact same thing.
I'm not sure. I feel like I did. I'm not sure. I might have.
Yeah.
No, I mean, as a Kyle Busch fan, it sucked, but I mean, I'm glad that Joey Logano didn't win. And I'm glad we got a Wood Brothers winner, and it was a respectable win for them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to say real quick, I'm in a obviously a different area compared to all the other previous episodes. I'm here at home instead of at college. I'm on spring break, so I got a different background. One thing that might be negatively impacted though is that might be a bit slower on my end. This particular corner I'm in doesn't have the best Wi-Fi. I'm trying to make sure, and all right, I'm just making sure we're heard, even if our
Okay.
cameras are a bit slow. Uh,
Yeah.
I do see the
Yours is a little
diecast
laggy,
correctly.
but I mean, for the people hearing this, just not watching the video, it should be all
I mean,
right.
I do see you have a quite respectable collection in the back. I see a Jimmy Johnson Carvana Indy
mhm.
car back there.
Yeah, that's just one of my one. I mean, this is definitely the most exciting background I can offer. It's right there with your background, Marcus. My dorm background is much more bland, just with a couple jerseys hung up. Uh,
Yeah.
I
I
could have
mean,
angled myself differently and had some other things too, but
it's
Yeah.
what I mean, you get what you can get.
hmm Well, we were gonna move on now. We were continuing to talk about pit road mishaps, Marcus, as you joined in, talking about the loose wheels. And Derek bringing up how
Mm,
interesting it
mm,
was to see Christopher Bell uh, in a race that had a lot of pit road mishaps. He made sure he was not one of the other drivers that lost a wheel. He pitted in one of his teammates' pit boxes, thanks to a good heads-up decision by the crew chief. And that was much better taking the penalty than what would have been the alternative. I'm curious, Marcus, if I mean, what do you think caused all these mishaps? I mean, I thought, maybe pit crews were out late in Vegas.
Yeah, I mean, probably what it was. I mean, I know there were like guys at concerts and stuff, or just out drinking. Yeah, I mean, Denny Hamlin was trying to get some of that lawsuit money the last 2 days.
Hmm
I
This
could
is,
tell you, I've been drinking this weekend, St. Patty's Day as well.
yeah,
So I couldn't
That
watch
too.
the full F1 race, unfortunately. I was like way too out of my mind to do
Well, you
that.
see, you can only identify 21 in places like Talladega. So, I mean, I'm not able to access that stuff yet. So,
True.
um, Yeah,
Well, me
no,
me and Zach can at least. So
yeah, you
Yeah,
guys
just
can.
recently.
And
yeah,
Cody, I'm the youngest person here. Yeah, no, I thought it was just weird how many mishaps there was in Vegas. So I mean, obviously you gotta imagine it was hot, so
Hmm.
everyone wasn't exactly in their
Well,
right minds. They were probably hungover, and that's what was causing all these mishaps. I think the one reason that Bell was at an advantage with his mishap was he had a 4 car team, and with that 4 car team, he had pit boxes scattered everywhere. That would
yeah.
help him.
If you're like
yeah,
Rick Ware or something, you really don't have another pit box to pit in if you
yeah.
think you have a loose wheel.
You have
Well, the Wood
RFK, don't
brothers.
you?
Yeah,
Wood
technically.
Brothers have Penske. They have Penske.
Yeah, alliances, sure, but
Yeah,
if you're a Chevrolet driver and you're like colleague and you're gonna pit in a Hendrick box, I don't know if they'll be happy to help you. So it's obviously best just to tighten the wheel first, but that's much easier said than done, as evidenced by Sunday.
Yeah.
It was very interesting seeing all those loose wheels and days ruined like Kyle Busch. Chase Briscoe spun off pit road. Kyle Busch off a restart just lost it in turn two.
yeah,
The tire came off the rim as well. That was quite interesting to see.
yeah. I feel like if before the next gen, you could put in 3 or 4 lug nuts and leave 1 or 2 out, and you'd still have the tire on.
Hey,
But
that's the argument, right? I mean, you wouldn't have
yeah,
seen a lot of lost tires with the 5 lug system versus when it's the next gen and you have a single lug. Either that has to be perfectly tight, or if it's not, that's the only thing that can hold the tire on. So
yeah,
that's the
I will say
argument
I
there.
will say it was like as a Kyle Busch fan, it felt like every other week he still had a wheel coming off somehow with the 5 lugs. So I
Mm,
don't feel like much from that
yeah,
standpoint, not much has changed, but there's a lot more wheel offs for sure. And I think NASCAR should have stuck with what they knew instead of trying to evolve like they want to here. Because ultimately that's you know, this is all untested stuff. I mean, they lost a year of testing. We were supposed to have the next gen 21.
mm,
I think honestly, if I were NASCAR, I would have taken the opportunity, put the next gen in during 2023, and that would have given them time to do all the testing they needed, as well as the 75-year anniversary. That gives them a big opportunity to promote that they're moving forward in their 75th anniversary, as well as everything else.
I
yeah.
bet it's a good point you bring up. I mean, NASCAR's always been unique to the 5 lugs, I feel like, and they still do that in the lower series. So I feel like that's just made them unique. It makes pit crews have to be a lot
Yeah,
more skilled versus the other motor racing series. Not to get too far into this next gen
I'm just
discussion.
saying you don't get these anymore from the Cup races.
Yeah, it is certainly cool to, you know, and I mean, the single lug kind of sounds cool. We hear it in other motorsports though, but the 5 lug guns sounded pretty cool.
I like hearing the 5 action than the one.
Yeah.
It's
For
just
me,
much more solid.
it's like the F1, like the V8 versus the V6 argument. Like that's
Oh yeah,
what it sounds like to me.
definitely.
Well, one thing we hadn't had a shortage of either this season, like we saw if no shortage of loose tires yesterday, is no shortage of a bunch of different stage winners. And I believe that this is true in the fact that Kyle Larson's the only multi-time stage winner this year. We're 5 races in. That's a bunch of stages, 3 per
Yeah,
race, or 2 technically per race, including
2.
the
Yeah,
finish. And we've only had one repeat stage winner. Uh,
and yeah, that was Larson. I think he got stage 2, and then I'm not quite sure which stage he won previously, but yeah, he's the only one.
Probably one that my guess is I think he won one at Atlanta if I
yeah, I
remember
think so too,
correctly.
actually.
I
I think
think it was Atlanta he got his other one at because Phoenix was who was it at Phoenix? I forgot who won the stages at Phoenix now,
Hey, I
even though it was
forgot.
like a week ago.
Yeah, I forgot who won at Atlanta, and I was there just like you were at Phoenix. So,
Yeah,
I think Larson. I think you're right. I feel like it was Atlanta. Uh, but
I'm trying to fact check that right. Yeah, it was stage 2 of Atlanta.
yep,
Correct.
he was
Ooh,
battling
yeah.
Bowman, I think, and made a pass on the last lap there. But yeah, it's quite interesting. We remember 2022 and the next gen came in. We had this onslaught of almost a record-breaking amount of winners and stuff, or basically. And right now we're seeing the parity this season. You take out the Christopher Bell winning 3 in a row. We've had a bunch of different stage winners. We just had Josh Berry win a race, and it'll be interesting to see how that continues going forward if we continue to have, excuse me, more of a parity of stage winners. By the way, Josh Berry, first Ford win this year. Who would have thought that?
Yeah, I mean he might have a strong car. I think we were talking about it early on in the season how he could be a great underdog for that team, and I think you brought up the point, Zach, of how like Harrison Burton might have been just a slower driver than Barry holding that car down. Maybe it was actually fast.
Yeah, let's let this transition us into our Josh Berry talk. I mean, Harrison Burton finally broke through and got a win with Wood Brothers in his departing year in 2024 from that team, keeping Kyle Busch out of the playoffs, Marcus. And now Harrison Burton had to leave that ride for Josh Berry. And in comes Josh Berry. Already showed flashes of greatness at Phoenix last week, getting a top
Mm,
five. And now not unartificially, he just goes out and wins Las Vegas. This wasn't off of like a big one wreck or a late race restart with some mixed up strategies. Josh Berry went up there and took it from Daniel Suarez and drove to the win in what was a green flag run to the finish, and is making that Wood Brothers ride looking like a true Penske hybrid and getting his first career win. I don't think I saw any fans though, guys, that were like disappointed though at that story. A lot of people like Josh Berry, and that was a good one.
mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
I personally really like him just because he's a great short track guy. But here he is doing his thing at intermediates.
Sorry, excuse me. I mean, Josh Berry, like you said, this is a guy that is actually not only a short track guy, but also came up through the iRacing ranks. Like William Byron, this is a computer to real
Really,
life racer,
I didn't
and
yeah,
know
that's
that.
how.
yeah, he's at least gotten his fair share of iRacing experience. And Dale Jr.'s been a big fan of his, with Junior Motorsports and stuff. And Josh Berry goes and races Cars Tour. I do think he's actually the first Cars Tour winner that's now won in Cup, or at least first Cup
He's
winner.
also the first NASCAR weekly. I believe it's the first weekly series champion in NASCAR that actually has won a cup race.
hmm Yeah, Josh Berry. This is a guy that's grown up respecting what goes into working on race cars, and for the longest time, it didn't look like he was going to even do a burnout until they did. I think off air, and a lot of people are saying like, yeah, this is a guy that respects the race car. He's not going to do burnout, but and I would definitely expect Josh Berry to do that, but for your first career win, just let it go, man. You gotta celebrate, enjoy that. He did the Polish victory lap, Dale Jr. at Daytona style. Of course, Alan Kulicki championed that, and what a moment. He took it all in, and that Wood Brothers team was ecstatic.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Josh Berry did the burnout, but it wasn't a crazy burnout. It was just like a couple donuts, and then he just went and did his victory lap. You know,
Why
like
wouldn't you do a burnout, right?
yeah, you got. I mean, you gotta do like something for your first win, but like I mean, Josh
Yeah.
Berry didn't. He didn't go crazy like some guys would. You know,
I saw the
and
pit road crew just like they were just like said this how you do it, but like
Mm-hmm.
yeah, they wasn't doing it.
I saw it.
they
Uh,
just. I think. Yeah, I think though. The engine got taken to R&D anyway, so they weren't gonna get it back.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. So, but Josh Berry, I mentioned passing Daniel Suarez. We had that run to the finish that
Mm.
wasn't a late race restart, like a green white checkered or anything. We talk about the parity in stage winners. We had quite the parity running for the win up there. We had a Ryan Preece top three. He wasn't exactly competing for the win, but he was knocking on the door. It eventually was Daniel Suarez versus Josh Berry. They had a great battle for what was the win, and they had a great 1v1 under green flag conditions, not roughing each other up, obviously racing as hard as you can on a mile and a half. Josh Berry coming from behind and passing Suarez. Daniel Suarez has had not the best luck to start the season, trying to race for maybe his job. Had a great showing at Las Vegas, just came up one sport short to Josh Berry. I love seeing that battle though, guys. I mean, on a mile and a half, two guys that aren't like you know gr- consistent Cup winners. That's the parity I
Yeah.
talk about. Prime Priest right there as well. Josh Berry and Ryan Priest don't even had a Cup win, until Berry won yesterday. Daniel Suarez only has just a few, and that's what you love to see. You love to see that parity as a NASCAR fan. It's what makes NASCAR so great. All the different race winners.
Yeah, and Trackhouse overall was having a pretty poor start to their season. They had a lot of high expectations, but I believe Suarez was second. I think Chastain finished top five. He was right along with them at the end, so it was good to see for Trackhouse as well.
So it begs the question: what's the ceiling for the Wood brothers and Josh Berry? I mean, a couple 5 races in, I'd say Josh Berry, he showed that flash of greatness at Phoenix, as I mentioned, and just drove out and won Las Vegas. This is a guy that actually might not like waste a playoff spot like we've seen some of those underdog winners do in recent years. Harrison Burton, obviously won Daytona, really didn't do much in the playoffs though. Josh Berry, I wouldn't think that would be the same fate for him because he's showing that talent. He's showing how good that Wood Brothers ride could be, as we just alluded to. It operates out of the Penske shop. It's essentially a Penske hybrid ride, while it is its own team. It's a Ford, and I feel like this is a ride that can actually do some damage. It'll be interesting to see what he can do in the playoffs, but I'm curious what you guys think as well. A multi-time winner threat this season? Could Josh Berry win more than one time?
So I think it'll be similar to how Blaney was in 2018. I could see him having multiple chances at wins. He could probably muster, I think, 2 or 3 more.
Mm,
I don't see him getting to the final four exactly, but round of 8 is like it's a good ceiling there. I mean, I just think it's really cool for him that and the fact that he might have actually I think of all 4 Stuart Haas guys, like he probably got the best out of what the other 3 went to. I mean, you saw Ryan Preece also up there. Got to talk about him in a bit, but it's
Oh
just
yeah.
cool to see what these Stuart Haas guys were able to do when they're not in a dying team and they have some
mhm,
stability to work with.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Berry had the bad end of the stick coming to this Cup Series, anyways. I mean, I
yeah.
remember when he subbed for Chase Elliott, it was just kind of like, he was just disregarded compared to everyone else. And
Well, he got second at Richmond though as well because he
Mhm.
pulled a
yeah, I
strategy
mean, he
and it
showed his
worked.
potential, but like I feel like no one really cared for him, and he just kind of struggled to find his footing, and now he's finally here. So
Yeah.
Well, to your point, Derek, I almost forgot, as you bring that up until Marcus said that he did finish second at Richmond, but I feel like points and examples like that really do play into the fact that Josh Berry might be a force to be reckoned with. He's not exactly the young rookie that other rookies have been, but he could
Yeah.
be right in that kind of age range that most NASCAR drivers seem to flourish in. And it'll be
yeah, for
interesting to
sure.
see. It wouldn't surprise me a bit if this driver and Josh Berry wins another time this year before even the playoffs start, because this is a guy that apparently a couple races in, we might need more of a sample size to really make our predictions on this, but he's going to be knocking on the door more often than not, making that Wood Brothers ride really competitive again.
Yeah, and with like NFL players, their prime age is probably like 25, 24, even just out of college, maybe 2 years in the league. But with NASCAR drivers, I feel like you said, like the prime age is like right where Josh Berry is in that early 30s, late 20s range. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking forward to what he's doing. He might actually, I wouldn't be surprised if he made it to the round 12 now that he's in the
hmm
playoffs.
That wouldn't surprise me either. I think Josh Berry, we got to start we're going to get used to, I think, as the season goes on. This is not just a ride that's going to be competing for top 20 in points with Josh Berry behind the wheel. I feel like this is going to be something more, and that would be
All right.
interesting to see.
Could I bring something up really quick? I just want to bring up something. I was watching an Eric Eastet video and I saw this earlier, and I think it would be very interesting to point out. So this is comparing Harrison Burton between 2022 and 2024, and then Josh Berry's first 5 races. Josh Berry's gotten a win, 2 top 5s, 74 laps led, 15.6 average start, 18.6 average finish. Harrison Burton has had 1 win, 2 top 5s, 73 laps led, 23.9 average start, 24.4 average finish.
Hmm.
Okay,
If
so
that
that
says
average
absolutely
definitely
anything.
brings it down. Like just to compare there, that average is way worse for Harrison Burton overall.
Yeah, I mean, like the fact that he had the same amount of like laps led, top 5s, and well, hold on, 1 less lap led, 2 top 5s, and a win in like almost over 100 starts, and Josh Berry did that in 5.
hmm
That should
Yeah,
have said something.
That's all.
yeah,
Now it's
for
got me
sure.
thinking, where did Harrison Burton get that other top five besides his win?
Indianapolis 2022 when they had like the sport ender.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, that rings a bell then. Uh, that was interesting
That's
though.
when Ross Chastain. That's when Derek's guy, decided to do the funny and cut the course.
hmm
Yes, for sure.
Well,
Yeah, yeah. That's for another day.
yeah.
I mean, also speaking of Ross Chastain, if I were Josh Berry, I'd be thanking Ross Chastain for holding Byron up.
Oh yeah, yeah. He definitely helped in that case.
There's some
Uh,
turmoil back there. I feel like overall it was a very exciting top 10, but it seemed like a lot of the Hendrick guys weren't really driving like teammates to each other in those closing laps.
No.
and then Byron with Chastain as well. But I mean, at the end of the day, you're racing for the win and stuff. Uh, I don't think that'll be something that'll be too big of a deal beyond putting this Vegas weekend behind us. And as we do move off of Vegas, it leaves us with one more thing to do, and that's rate the race. Well, last show we rated the race towards the end of the show and felt like that kind of didn't make sense. How about we slot this in right after our preliminary Vegas discussion? And we got grading the racing, the finish, an overall event, of course. Actually, let me fact check.
I do have one
The
more point I want to bring up really quick. We didn't really talk about him. Ryan Preece getting third, maybe establishing himself as maybe he was good and just didn't have great equipment
I
the
think
whole
Ryan
time.
Preece will come into his own too, almost similar to Josh Berry. Give him a good ride. Josh Berry making that Penske ride look good. Ryan Preece is racing for RFK. We know that's a good ride. Ryan Preece has just been flipping, to start the season, so he's trying to settle into his own as
yeah.
well.
Like I think Noah Gregson definitely got the worst end because he's in a front row that is like struggling right now with their lawsuit and all that, and they can't really put much focus on the cars.
Hmm.
Briscoe's at JGR, so there's a little stability there. But I think Priest and Barry definitely have the best right now
Yeah.
out of Stuart Haas.
Yep.
And I did make the mistake. We're grading, of course, the racing product, excitement, finish, and overall. That adds to an overall event grading. I might have to update the graphic to perfectly reflect that. But we're gonna get right into this then. And usually I send it to one of you guys. I might as well start this one to give you some time to think. And I'll start with grading the racing product. I mean, next gen's bread and butter is the mile and a half. We've been knowing this, and Vegas has not given us a bad race yet since 2022. The racing product, I think, was awesome. It's multi-groove Vegas. It's an aged surface. Comers and goers checked all the boxes. This got to be a 9.6 out of 10 for me on the racing product.
Okay.
And
Mm.
the excitement, that was certainly there all race long. You had, a little bit of fall off in it naturally in a mile and a half race, I feel like. But, you never had a driver just drive away from the field, really. You had, I mentioned the comers and goers, you had drivers racing up front, close gaps, and build new ones. The racing, or the excitement, I should say, I'm going to give that a solid 9.2. That leaves the finish, of course, and not every finish has to be good just because it's a photo finish or last lap pass. We had a great battle for the win in the closing laps. Josh Berry catching up to Daniel
Excuse
Suarez.
you, bro. Damn.
Getting very excited to talk about this, and
Yeah, apparently.
but
Jeez.
anyway, to continue, you had Berry just what you love to see about NASCAR is racing like that, to where it's not, you know where it's artificial like that and it's organic, I should say. And it's not off like a green white checkered. You have a driver chase down another, both racing hard for the win, both two not always up front drivers. And we had a good battle right there. Once Josh Berry got up to Suarez, it wasn't just he went right by him. Suarez gave him a run for his money, and that's just what I like to see in the excitement, or excuse me, in the finish. And that finish, it doesn't have to always be a photo finish. I have to give it a 9.7. I really do. I feel like
Wow. This
I
is a high grade for sure.
because I can't keep coveting, and just not ever approaching 10 in my grades. I mean, I can't be asking for the perfect race because I feel like I'll never get it. I have to really appreciate what Vegas gave us yesterday. So that's my ratings.
Wow. Well, that rounds out to a 9.5 for you, Zach.
Yeah,
So
I don't mind
very
that.
high.
I feel like I was a bit, generous on some things, but I didn't want to hold back.
Okay. Marcus, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Racing product. I mean, typical like Zach was saying for a mile and a half. I would give it a 9.5
Wow.
easily. Excitement. I mean, it was here and there, but I mean, it wasn't throughout all the race. But that's a typical race. It's typically not going to be crazy all the way through. At the end, it definitely got exciting with all the different pit strategy, as well as Logano pitting and not being in the front. I'm gonna say like an 8.5 for that. And then the finish, I'm gonna give a 9.5 just because the drivers managed to keep their stuff together and didn't go berserk late in the race and cause a bunch of overtimes and take away the good story that we had yesterday.
Okay. So that rounds out to a 9.16, and that's another high grade. Feel like not many nines so far this season for the overall rating between us four, including Cody. But
Where is Cody, by the way?
I don't know. I guess he's just doing whatever. I guess.
Yeah, that's basically the best answer.
Hmm.
But I mean, he was just talking with us recently, so I mean, maybe he's yeah, maybe he's dealing with something internally. But
Maybe.
I'll go on my ratings now. Uh, it's not like super harsh, but it's also not to the extent of like a 9.5 or a 9.1. It's going to be slightly lower than that, I think, just based on what I'm seeing here. Uh, for the racer product, I gave it an 8.5. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of intermediates in NASCAR, so like I kind of grown to love like how intermediates run, and I'm just very used to it. And Las Vegas provided great racing, of course, and I can't really stay too high on it. I did love the restarts; those actually contribute to the excitement factor too. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of 5 wide. I gave that racing product an 8.5. And with the excitement, I gave it a 7.6, slightly lower than racing product because once you get in a green flag run, everyone fans out, and there was a lot of that. But then there was also a lot of cautions later on, so kind of helped improve that excitement factor for me. I'm just adding this real quick, and then you guys also gave a pretty high finish or rating for the finish. I thought, after 14 to go when Barry passed Suarez, it fizzled out a little bit, so just kind of like straightforward to the end.
Mm.
And I mean, I gave that a 7.0. I thought it was just very straightforward, nothing too like I guess boner deflating, if you will. Um, so that rounds
Uh,
out to 7.7. I mean, it was a pretty dang good race. It's just not to the highest extent, I believe, this season. It's right around where I rated Daytona and Phoenix, I'm pretty sure.
Well, that's why we have a panel. We're kind of a microcosm for just the general NASCAR, appeal to how they might have viewed a race. And you had someone like me to where I know I'm very generous with my ratings on this
oh,
race, and probably a bit too generous in some areas, but I'm also in a good mood today. Like I said, I'm on spring break. I'm in a different room, obviously, as a result. So I'm just looking fondly back on
Also,
Vegas.
happy birthday tomorrow for you, Zach.
Mhm.
In 2.5 hours, you're gonna be 22.
Mhm. That is true. I
So
appreciate that, Derek.
everyone, chat,
maybe
wish happy birthday to Zach.
make if
Let
you
him
know
know.
if you know his context as well, make sure you send Joey Logano gifts because he'll love that.
Oh, no.
Or Austin
Make
Dillon stickers.
Joey.
I mean,
Oh yeah,
put
that's
them
a
on the
fun.
car.
Yeah, make sure you put it on the bumper. Don't respect the paint or
Well,
anything.
that still's there, by the way.
I,
The
I thought I thought I picked it all off there. Did I not?
next time you see my car, that'll probably still be there.
I'll try and pick the rest of it. I tried to do what I could.
You could take a blowtorch to it, and it probably wouldn't go away.
Yeah, your car has Austin Dillon ingrained in it
Mhm.
forever now. It's
Yeah.
all
If it
right.
was
Next
any
time,
other sticker, it'd probably be gone, but apparently that one had Austin Dillon residue.
okay. Well, let's go. Next time, Derek, we're gonna go and get like the biggest one we can get at Talladega, and we're gonna put it on the window.
I'm down, Marcus.
We'll put it on the windshield and make him drive on the freeway when we go. Like if we go karting and mini golfing again.
Perfect. We'll for sure put that Austin Dillon sticker on.
Uh,
Well, I feel like this could partially transition into our next segment, foreshadowing to what we might have for our hot and colds. What we're going to do, it's a brand new segment. Credit to Derek for coming up with this one. We're 5 races in. It's a good number to look at early season hot
huh?
drivers and cold drivers. Who's been underperforming, in your opinion? Who's been overperforming? And who deserves their flowers for it for whatever reason? 5 races in, you can give just one for a hot driver, one for a cold, or you can give a couple of them here. We got three on the panel.
I feel like we can automatically rule out Christopher Bell for the overperforming. I think everyone's gonna say that, right?
so keep them off the board.
I mean, I'm not. I'm just saying, like all three of us probably agree with that,
Yeah,
right?
and
So we
I'm
can
not.
so
I'm
pick other
not gonna.
people.
I'll say someone else. Just to be clear,
so try to
because
keep them. Yeah.
Bell was pretty hot last season. I mean, driving wise, not like physically. Yeah, no.
I mean, there's definitely more than one driver I want to say for each, so I feel like we don't have to put a limit on it. Let's just see. Let's try to see how unique we can get with our hot and colds. Who wants to start?
I'll start.
All right.
So, I mean, okay, I'm gonna be biased. Okay, for the first hot, I'm gonna be a little biased, but this is based on how last year went. Kyle Busch started the year pretty good so far. Had a little speed in Vegas yesterday, just didn't go right with his pit crew and all that. They kind of screwed him over. So, I mean, he dropped. Sure, he dropped from 8th in the points to 17th behind Ricky Stenhouse and John Nemechek, but he still got a good start to the year. He's doing good on tracks that he's usually not good on. Um, Obviously, you gotta put Josh Berry now. I feel like everyone's gonna have to say Josh Berry. Uh, Completely is already done the same, if not better, than Harrison Burton did within the span of 5 races. Um, and then I'll do a couple more. Ryan Priest definitely outperforming what people thought he would. He
Mhm.
came and went at Phoenix, but he led a lot of laps, showed that he can be up front if given the right opportunity. Also, capitalized on a good result at Vegas yesterday. I believe he's ahead of Keselowski and maybe close to Buescher in the points right now. So he's obviously outperforming everyone's expectations right now. I believe, yeah, that's the last one for over. Underperforming, I just feel like the last couple weeks I haven't seen enough Chase Briscoe. Uh, he's
Mm,
still obviously getting acclimated to Joe Gibbs, so I don't think we'll see too much of him until later on in the year. Um, let's see who else. I'm gonna throw all of Spire in there because they all show qualifying speed every single week,
Oh
and
yeah.
then when it comes to the races, something goes wrong for them, whether it be mechanical, whether it be driver error, whether it be other drivers like causing stuff. Right? They just cannot escape bad luck. So I think obviously I think part of it has to do with the fact that they're a second Hendrick team. They need to jump on the opportunity to get if Dodge returns to the Cup Series soon,
Yeah.
jump on that opportunity and take the factory support, the tier 1 support from Dodge, because I'm pretty sure it's pretty much confirmed by now that they're coming back. Um, let's see. Have I gotten everyone I was thinking of? Austin Dillon, I thought he was gonna win the title and all that.
Oh really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
next. Yeah, let's go next.
Okay. You want to go next, Zach?
All right, sure, yeah. I'll start with my colds. I feel like I have a lot more colds than drivers that stick out to me as hots. And I mean, you mentioned Austin Dillon. I'll make sure that we don't think of him as a championship threat, and instead we think of him as a cold because Austin Dillon is 32nd in points. He's getting outperformed by his brother by a good couple spots. And Ty Dillon's actually honestly going to be one of my hots. Not like one of my perennial hots, but Ty Dillon I feel like has had some decent showings this year as far as speed and stuff. But staying on the
Yeah.
topic of colds here, Brad Keselowski, hasn't had the best of luck. Been
Yeah.
involved in incidents. I remember him wrecking right in front of me at Atlanta. This is a driver that I feel like just hasn't had the luck he's needed throughout his tenure at RFK, but has definitely shown the speed. But so far this season has definitely been a cold underperformer. He's 30th in points, but I'm not trying to base all of this off of points. As a matter of fact, I'm flipping back and forth here. I thought I was going to start with colds and go to hots, but Carson Hocevar, he's not that high up in points, but I've been seeing him making
Mhm.
noise up front. And while Jairus have had some
That's
issues
right.
with him, at Atlanta and stuff, Carson Hocevar was running up front at Phoenix before he fell back there at the beginning. Same at
Coda.
yep, Coda. And
Coda, I didn't see him at Vegas. It was mostly McDowell at Vegas, right?
yeah, I was trying to think. I feel like I thought I saw him at Vegas, but then I remember him
He
getting
was in the
lapped at
top
the end.
10 every once in a while. He was not a
Yeah, I
slow car per
I
se.
know he was like top 10. He stayed out like on older tires and he just collapsed in like 5 laps.
Mhm. Yeah, but Carson Hocevar has definitely stood out to me, despite not all of the results kind of meshing together in the best way as a hot. And Joey Logano, I was trying to think how to categorize him because it did seem like he was kind of a cold to me. But then I looked down, he's 10th in the points, and it's like he's just been quietly kind of doing his job. Obviously, Phoenix was a very interesting race for him, to where he kind of, you know, got a lot done and stuff despite the issues. And Logano, I feel like just needs to make sure he doesn't fall susceptible to it being an odd year. and falling into a championship slump. But right now, he doesn't just overwhelmingly strike me as a hot. I feel like he's been more cold this season than hot. And I'll give one more cold uh, here. That's absolutely Ty Gibbs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He,
Yes.
yeah. Wait, remember when we were doing our episodes before the season and we were making predictions and stuff? I'd said Ty Gibbs would definitely be winning a race this year. Now I'm not sure about that. I almost feel that's a stupid decision based on what he showed. This also started at the end of last season as well. He was racking up a bunch of terrible finishes, and now it's carried over into this season. Ty Gibbs has been quite the cold for me this year. I do want to give
Yeah.
one final hot here before I toss it off to you, Derek. And one for me has been a Alex Bowman, and Marcus gave his biased take. Alex Bowman, I've seen him come from, behind Coda, now Vegas, and even Phoenix. I think every race this year he started in the back, and then the one he wrecked out at was Atlanta, not to his own faults. He started in the back at Daytona, drove up, got a top 10. At Coda, like I said, he got mired back due to getting spun, getting penalized, finished with a top 10. You go to Vegas, or you go to Phoenix. He started in the back after having a qualifying
Yeah.
mishap, battled back for a top 10, and now at Vegas had a vibration and then a pit road penalty when he was running up in the top 5. Qualified really good, looked like a winning threat. Somehow, after falling laps down, battled back for top 10. Alex Bowman definitely strikes me as a hot. And hopefully you didn't take all the drivers, Derek, but you're the last one here.
Yeah, I have a couple to mention. You guys did take a couple of my drivers though, like Hocevar and Ty Gibbs. But I'll start with the one hot I have that you guys didn't mention. I think it's quite obvious. William Byron. I mean, besides Christopher Bell, I mean, he is the next best driver here on the grid, and I mean, he just continued what he's been doing for the past couple of years, and with the exception of Atlanta, where he crashed out, I believe, or actually, yeah, he did crash out. I
He got
think it was
crashed by
two.
a Cindric.
That's right. Yes, two
In
ago.
the yep.
But
Yeah.
he had his results at Daytona was first, and then at Coda second, Phoenix sixth, and then recently Las Vegas fourth. So it's been a really, really hot start for William Byron, and
Hmm.
you can't really ask for much more.
And he's leading the points.
Yeah, I
Yes.
mean, and even though Christopher Bell had 3 wins, he's still behind by like I think 30 or 40 points.
Yeah.
So the stage wins definitely help out for, not stage wins, but stage points.
The stage
Definitely a lot
results.
more. Yes. Now I'm gonna move on to one of my colds. Where is it? So yeah, you mentioned Ty Gibbs, Zach. I mean, I guess we gotta mention Cole Custer. I mean, he is out of the full-time drivers, he's one of last in points. But it's not just that. Uh, he just hasn't had a top 20 finish yet this year, and you want to at least do that like once up to this point, but
Yeah.
he just has not done that. If you want to count the duel, yeah, top 20, but I mean that's really easy to do, isn't it? So, um, I mean, not really much else to say there. I mean, we have a common running gag here saying, "What does he even do?" Yeah, I mean, we made once, and that I mean, really, he doesn't do much right now.
Yeah, it's interesting. Cole Custer goes and dominates Xfinity, and it's just the transition to Cup. It's like he, he belongs in a series that doesn't exist that slots in between Xfinity and the Cup, and that'd be his best. That'd be his ceiling because he hasn't
I'm
shown it in Cup besides winning at Kentucky in
I
2020.
feel like though, like I said, I feel like if they kept the Gen 6 for a couple more years, would we have seen Custer come to his own, you
Mhm.
know? Like the problem is he didn't get many years with that car, and that's what the Xfinity car was most similar to. And then NASCAR goes and changes to the next gen, completely different car. And you just seeing like sometimes like just certain drivers haven't adapted to it. I mean, Justin Allgaier, who is an Xfinity lifer, if he gets like a good cup car, like we saw at Charlotte last year and even Daytona this year, he's a top 10 threat.
Yeah, I mean, we saw how the next gen just drives way differently than previous Cup stock cars had before. You had, Jimmy Johnson come in and say you have to drive this completely differently from how you drove in previous generations. And I mean, remember how we saw a lot of self spins just from a lot of Cup champions and a lot of multi-time Cup winners at the beginning of the next gen tenure and stuff. And even then, we still see some lingering self spins. But for the most part, the drivers that have been in next gen since the beginning are starting to figure this out. But there's obviously a big learning curve, and it is an interesting point you bring up. Cole Custer only had 2 years really with the Gen 6, I think.
Yeah, and real quickly, my last cold, Shane Van Gisbergen. I mean, you can't just do well at a road course and then suck the other ovals. I mean, he finished sixth at Dakota, but everywhere else he's crashed out or had a poor result, like Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, he just needs to actually finish races on the lead lap. That's pretty much his only concern.
Yeah, it is. I mean, Shane Van Gisbergen obviously still brand new to oval racing. You can't really think of any Xfinity races he made noises on the
No,
ovals. At
Darlington.
Darlington, Atlanta, technically, but it's and a an oval dominated schedule. Uh, you know, you don't want Shane Van Gisbergen to be another Marcus Ambrose, or maybe you do, AJ Allmendinger, but that's not usually going to win you championships. Shane Van Gisbergen got, you know, I don't want to say rushed to Trackhouse in the Cup, but they gave him a year to develop an
uh,
Xfinity, and it'll be interesting to see what his future holds. Is he going to be someone that figures out the ovals, or is he just going to kind of fall into that niche of Marcus Ambrose, Allmendinger, road course
Montoya.
ringer, Montoya, Boris said, you name him.
Honestly, though, like I mean, here's the thing: is all those guys they had their random ovals that they were good at, right?
Yeah,
Almendinger, you see him pop up at Martinsville
yeah,
because
the
that
short
track is
tracks.
that's basically two hairpins,
Hey, we
and
haven't
you
got to a
see.
short track yet in this Cup season,
No, yeah, we
besides
haven't. What
Bowman Gray.
what's the
And
what's the
you know
next
what?
race
SVG
again?
was good at Bowman Gray, so this guy could be someone to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
SVG also. I mean, I could see him doing good at Martinsville. It's two hairpins like Sonoma, you know.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And I mean, like I was saying, you got like, Allmendinger randomly is good at Homestead, very randomly good at that track. So I just think you're gonna have like those tracks for Shane during the season. He'll just randomly pop up and show a good top five, top 10 finish, and then here and there, like I mean, just keep doing that. But I don't really see him making a playoff run unless he does something on a road course.
Hmm. All right, well, we're actually going to take a break here, our quick break, and we're going to come back. We're going to talk about F1. We're going to update the fantasy standings, as well as wrap up the show with our Homestead race picks. Quick break. We'll be back in less than 5 minutes. And we are back for our wrap up here. But before we wrap up, we got to talk F1. We started the NASCAR season. We started the IndyCar season. We each recapped all of those as they've gone on. And now finally, we have the last major racing series around the globe that has kicked off, and that's Formula One. Back at what had long time been a season opening event in Melbourne, Australia, and is back in that spot to start 2025. We were treated to quite the exciting race because of the weather and the new faces and new places, an onslaught of rookies, and everything that you could ask for to kick off an F1 season. And we had it with torrential rainfall, mixing up of strategy, and a new winner to kick off 2025 that hasn't been Verstappen winning the opening event in a while. He got beat by Lando Norris and McLaren, who had a great showing before Oscar Piastri spun out when the rain hit, and still battled back, I think, for a points finish, right? But
Yeah, he spun out, got stuck in the grass, and he there was a fan video of him like backing up and like never giving up, and yeah, he got 2 points out of it.
yeah, I thought he was done for after that.
Me
Somehow got
too.
2 points.
If he wins the whole thing by 2 points, that video will become legendary.
And it's definitely
Yes.
possible. He's racing for McLaren, who's looked as good as ever in preseason and has a lot of reason to be optimistic this year, as
But
evidenced by
now
Lando.
my question is like, what's their rules going to be on the drivers like racing each other for the title? Like, when are they going to say,
Mm,
okay, you're number one, you're number two? Because those are both drivers who are capable of being number ones,
yeah,
and it's going to be
Hmm.
hard to tame them.
I mean, we've had at McLaren, Lando Norris was the number two behind Sainz and stuff, and now Lando Norris seemed like he'd, risen to the number one. But Oscar Piastri, to your point, equally as capable. And it's on at times I'm asking myself, who's the true number one? Right now, it's Lando Norris. He won the opener at Melbourne, and he is off to a good start this year after being uh, chased closely by Max Verstappen in those closing laps. Verstappen had DRS, he just did not quite have the drive off of those corners to actually mount an attack on him in the end. And that was all after quite the onslaught and happenstances of events that led up to that, with multiple rain spins and wrecks. Obviously,
What?
headlined by Oscar Piastri's spin, which did not bring out a yellow. He was stuck in the grass for a while, which obviously was tough for him as a result. We had some unsafe releases on pit road with Antonelli, who I think his penalty got pushed aside afterwards, right?
That's right. Yeah, he would have finished P5 behind Albon. It was a 5-second penalty, but I'm not sure. I don't remember why it got rescinded, but
Yeah, yeah. I don't.
he almost got a podium. It was crazy. What a race for him.
Ferrari had a typical Ferrari, meltdown, I guess you could say, as far as not getting the finish. They probably should have. They did
Yeah,
not handle the rain that well, and as a result, Hamilton barely makes the points in his Ferrari debut.
and I just want to mention there was a clip going around of Hamilton's radio during most of the race. An engineer was annoying the shit out of him, and he was probably thinking, "Man, I want to be with Bono back at Mercedes."
Welcome to Ferrari, Lewis
Yeah,
Hamilton.
he should have known. He should have known by the memes online, but he's probably
Oh,
too focused on other things, I
I
guess.
do also want to mention Leclerc. That video, Leclerc talking about how he's under the water. Please help.
What?
Um,
Really? Wait, what? I never heard this.
no, you didn't hear it on the radio. It was like, Leclerc was telling his crew that there was a lot of like water. There's a water leak somewhere, and that his seat was
Oh
really wet.
yeah, in
And his
his
crew
seat.
was like,
Yeah.
it must be the water.
hmm
Yeah, it must be the water from the rain. And then he's like, "No, there's like a lot of my seat." Like
Let's add that to the
freaking
words of
clowns, dude.
wisdom.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Uh,
support Ferrari. I wish they do well, but my gosh, they are
you know
clowns
what? I've
sometimes.
seen enough. Next year's their year.
Hey, we
Yeah.
talked about who's number one at McLaren. Who's number one at Ferrari this year? Charles Leclerc obviously been, the long time number one now ever since he's risen up to that team, but now he's got
Yeah.
Hamilton with him. That's quite the battle for number one at
I
Ferrari.
feel like it's gonna be. I
Yeah.
feel like Hamilton's just doing this for like a couple years, just say, "Hey, I drove for them."
hmm
I think obviously Leclerc's gonna still be the number one over there. So
Does
It's gonna be
Hamilton win a
hard
race
though.
with
ha-
Ferrari?
Hamilton, I think, does go try and get a couple wins because Ferrari, based on the end of last year, I'm confident they have a car that can go to certain places and win. I mean, what's the next couple tracks we go to? Obviously, Bahrain will probably
Bahrain.
favor McLaren. Like
Japan comes up
if
in Chinese Grand Prix.
Japan's a Hamilton track, I think we'll see him
Yep,
do something there.
that makes sense. Yeah, I also want to just point out like who's the number one driver at Williams as well, with Sainz going over there. I
Mm,
mean, Albon's a veteran driver there, but at the same time, Sainz has more experience.
mm.
I think Sainz is also just the over. I'm gonna say this. I think Sainz is overall a better driver than Albon. I
I
mean,
I
he
feel
doesn't
like yes, I agree.
he doesn't crack under the pressure of having a teammate like racing him. Like Albon could barely handle Verstappen, could barely handle when Colapinto would race him last year, right? I think it's just going to be about, can Alex Albon get used to having a teammate, and can he understand what racing is?
Hmm. And I think was it you, Marcus, that mentioned when we have the rainfall, just lock in Verstappen for the podium. And sure enough,
Hmm.
Verstappen
Yep.
looked as poised as anyone as the rain fell from the sky and came up just a couple, not even a second really, short of Norris there at the end. Just didn't have what it took to actually mount the attack, but was absolutely locked in and was probably the most comfortable driver in that rainfall, and it definitely pays to be as talented and as experienced as Max Verstappen is nowadays.
Think he's like up there. If Hamilton had a good strategy, I think it could have been Hamilton up there as well, because he's proven to be a fantastic wet weather driver. Just
Yeah.
look at his British GP in 2008. That's like the best wet weather drive I think
Mhm.
you've ever seen.
But I mean, you got to give credit to Lando Norris though. He had Verstappen closing in on his mirrors every single closing lap with the DRS he got in the DRS zones, and Norris in the wet did not crack under pressure, did not really miss any of his marks, did not mess
Hmm.
up any of his corners, and just stayed locked in. Verstappen, like I said, had the DRS, he just didn't quite have what it took to actually mount that attack. And Melbourne's, a bit of a tougher passing track. It's a street circuit, but other tracks that could have been different with larger DRS zones. But it's all the credit to Lando Norris, who kicks off the season looking good. And McLaren obviously had short odds for championships with Lando Norris, drivers champion as well for a reason, and they're showing it. Good start for
Yep,
them.
for sure.
But yeah, I mean, what a start. And that's the type of start that shakes up the points. All in all, we didn't have like extremely surprising drivers in the top 10 with
Oh,
the rain.
Nico Hulkenberg.
Yeah,
That's a surprising one
He
for me.
dragged. I think he got more points for Sauber this year than they got last year, right?
That's correct. Yes.
Already a good start.
And I just want to quickly point out like four rookies DNF'd. I mean, Isaac
yeah,
Hadjar DNF'd on the third turn of the freaking formation lap.
yeah.
So
Really, the only rookie making noise was Antonelli, and he
yeah,
even almost had the penalty, but actually had a good finish.
Antonelli, Antonelli and Behrman are the only rookies that finished, because you had what it was: Hadjar, Lawson, uh,
Jack Doohan.
Bortoleto,
Yep.
Duan, and Fernando Alonso also wrecked.
Yeah. And Ollie Behrman like rode around pretty much. Haas just
he,
doesn't seem
he was
competitive.
he was just chilling. I mean, he did his job. He brought the car home in one piece. He did it. He
Yeah.
did what he was supposed to.
Yeah, and he wrecked in qualifying, so he really needed to focus
He
on that.
had to. He had to do it.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, that's what we have to start F1, and we'll be keeping a close eye on what transcends now in the season that's now officially underway for F1. Lando Norris getting the opening win, and Max Verstappen still showing that he's going to be competing, I think, at least in the early going. Knocking on the door. It was a rain race, and he showed off that experience. And it'll be interesting to see. I feel like there's a lot of reason to be optimistic about seeing the most parity this year. This is just one race
Yeah.
in.
We'll see Chinese Grand Prix next week along with
Hmm.
IndyCar's Thermal Club.
Yep,
So we
we're
got that to
getting
look
No,
forward to.
very exciting
last
time to be a race fan.
last thing, Lance Stroll got sixth place. We forgot to mention him as a surprise.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
very surprised by that.
It is actually surprising.
Yep.
So I almost forgot about it.
In
That's
the
why.
rain
Hmm.
too. In the
He
rain.
is good. Lance Stroll is actually good in the rain, though, typically. So I mean, it's not surprising, but surprising to see Lance Stroll there at the end.
Hmm.
I see Brazil formation lap crash from Stroll and get by it. So
I see Turkey 2020.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, that's true. That's a big one there. Yeah.
All right. We're going to close the book on F1 for now after Lando Norris picks up the opening win at Melbourne in the Australian GP. And we're going to head now to our show wrap up, final segments here. And we're going to start with our Fantasy League standings. And I believe Derek has that for us. We're going to get right into looking at this right here. We're now 5 races in. And are we looking at the race points or the
Uh,
overall standings
This
first?
is the overall to
so
start
this is
out.
overall. I'll show the race ones later.
All right. So it's been king really ever since the get-go. It's
I'm closing in though. Come on, I'm
ours
closing
knocking on
in.
the door. Wow.
I've lost a little bit for
Nate
sure.
rounding out third, and then I'm happy to see myself in the top 5. Marcus as well.
Tony has not had a good start. Neither has Cody.
Tony, I thought was up there to start the season,
He
but
was. He fell back.
that's Mr. PTP. That's
He might
Tony.
have went aggressive with his driver
Speaking of,
selections
speaking
early
of
on.
Tony, there's some advertisements for William Byron and Austin Dillon merch and Jeff Gordon.
Interesting. And yeah.
And Chastain, yeah. Where's the Kyle Busch advertising?
I don't know.
Sticky
Who cares?
fingers for new to fantasy. He had
Yeah,
a
he
Oh,
finally
he
debuts.
passed Damn, he passed Tyler. That was gonna be an exciting battle between him and Tyler.
I think Tyler Sage is the pace car in this one.
Yeah, makes sense.
He's very happy with the rule, I bet. So we're gonna just keep
He's
rolling
just
with that.
chilling.
And here's Las Vegas. It was actually Cody who had the
wow.
best week.
Hmm.
Wow.
I'm
And
pretty sure.
Mark, Nate,
Yeah,
myself.
is this the one that got fifth in? Yeah, it is.
I personally had a bad picks with Hocevar and Dylan. They both got like a
Let
couple
me.
points between them.
We're gonna lose my camera for a bit. I'm gonna see who my picks were really quick, just so I can tell you all that. So I had Logano.
Wow.
He got me some points. Larson was definitely by far my best. Tyler Reddick I don't know what the hell happened to him. It was mainly Larson and Chastain that got me my points, and Logano and Busher got like 20 something each respectively, and then I don't know what happened to Reddick. He also got the fastest lap point, so that helped a little bit. Bell and Bowman helped out with my 1v1s.
Wow, King had his worst weekend.
I know. I was about to say he had the worst one of all of
Yeah.
us. So, um,
Interesting. Well, those are your fantasy standings. Remember, you can join at any time, just as Sticky Fingers did, and you just search up the tune-up. Pretty sure we're the only league named exactly that, the tune-up. The motto checkers or wreckers, and the password is NASCAR. I think it's capital N, lowercase other letters, or if not, it's
yeah,
all capitals. You'll figure it out.
yeah. Cody made the league. He didn't say the right abbreviation for NASCAR.
Mhm.
So, oh well.
All right. Well, that's a look at fantasy, and we're almost done with the show. We do have to make our Homestead race picks. That's what's next on the NASCAR schedule. We've got a very good part where we have 2 consecutive phenomenal tracks with next gen. We had quite the finish at Homestead last year, in which it was in the playoffs, and now one of the big schedule changes this year. It's back up to what it actually was a couple years ago, and that's in the earlier part of the season. It's right after Vegas coming up this weekend, and well, maybe should I make the race picks first
I want
instead
to.
of
Go
Cody?
I
ahead.
want. You want to go first?
Well, you can go first actually if you want.
I do have. Obviously Larson. You gotta say him for Homestead. He can rip the wall really well if he's not hitting the pit barrels, or if he's not spinning off of Austin Dillon's car. Uh, Tyler Reddick as well. I mean, actually no, I'm gonna revoke Reddick. Christopher Bell is a previous winner of Homestead in
Yep.
2023.
Yep.
He didn't have to make a crazy pass or anything. He just kind of drove away. Remember earlier when I was talking about AJ Allmendinger? He's my underdog.
Hmm.
He's actually had some good runs there in
He's
next
top
gen.
10 like almost every next gen race there, I think. So I'm saying AJ Allmendinger is my underdog for Homestead.
I tell you what, those are some good picks right there. Those are a lot of good drivers that I can pick because we're not strict on repeat drivers, but I don't want to pick because I want to be unique here. And I mean, I guess I'll go ahead here then. And thinking of drivers that come to mind for Homestead, like I said, a lot of those drivers were right up there for me. Um, I will pick Denny Hamlin. He was up there in the battle last year in that great finish between Reddick, Blaney, and Hamlin is right behind it. Denny Hamlin, I feel like, would be a solid pick. And you picked Larson, and I feel like Hendrick drivers will be ones to look out for at Homestead. I want to pick Bowman, but I'm not. He hasn't been outstanding, like showing flashes of greatness in the next gen at
Yeah.
Homestead. Uh, but actually, Chase Elliott, I feel like, could make some noise, and I've been thinking about where I'm going to pick Chase Elliott this year. This one just seems like it could work. I'm not saying Chase Elliott's had just great flashes at Homestead either, but he has had some. Whether it's next gen or not, Chase Elliott, I feel like could be one to watch out for. Chase Elliott, Hamlin are my winner picks. My underdog is going to be, in comparison to the other drivers, this driver is an underdog, and that's going to be. Well, hold on here, I just lost him. Bubba Wallace. Bubba Wallace can be underdog. I feel like he's been
Yeah.
decent at Homestead, and it wouldn't surprise me for him to make some noise. He was doing great at Vegas till he got caught up in something he didn't start. So Bubba Wallace showing the mile and a half prowess, and we'll see if he can pick it back up. I think he's won a pole at Vegas or Homestead before. Or was that when like Nemechek was subbing for him or something?
Nemechek started fourth there in 2023.
I
Where in
don't know what I'm
2022,
thinking
it
of
was
then.
2022 when he subbed for Bubba.
Yeah,
I think Bubba might have been up there either last year or the year before.
yeah. Well,
I know the year before is when he ran the Grimace car, I think.
mhm. Well, those are my picks. Hamlin, Elliott, underdog. Wallace, really, our only role for the underdog is if it's a clear underdog in comparison to your winner picks
Yeah.
ish,
I think
relatively.
Bubba definitely counts as an underdog at this
Yeah,
stage of the season. He just hasn't been doing too well. Um, okay, well, that leaves that with me, and I'm gonna do something I'm likely only gonna do once this season. I'm gonna duplicate my picks from last race because they did really bad in comparison to what I thought they were gonna do for Las Vegas. I just have a feeling they're just gonna reverse it and do
Who
well for
who was your
Homestead.
picks, by the way?
My picks last week and for this week now, Larson, Reddick, and Hocevar for my underdog. And
Okay.
so far, by the way, all my underdogs have DNF'd every single race. So I've been keeping track. So I'm trying to finally break that streak. I think Hocevar finally freaking finishes a race. But I
Right.
know for sure Larson and Reddick should do very well.
all right. That's our Homestead race picks. We'll see how they do, and we're going to try and keep track of them as they go on here. And with that, we're going to wrap up the show. This has been episode 7 of the Tune-Up. We appreciate you joining along. I apologize. This will probably be the worst presentation-wise of the show because it's been lagging throughout. But as far as I've been checking, we've been heard. That's the main thing. And this will be probably the only time, at least until May, where I'm doing the show in this setting. So I'd like to thank Derek Smith, Marks Fandeli for joining along as I have every single show. My name is Zach Tefelsky. My YouTube is ZacharyMT. Join us next week, Monday, 9 p.m. Eastern, is our new show time, an hour later than we started the year with. And we're going to be talking more racing after that. I think we'll have all 3 of our primary series we cover with a race to talk about when we come back Monday. Until then, take care of yourselves, be safe, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye, everyone.